Hello everyone and welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Ste, delighted to be joined by Chris Pajak for today's Liverpool news update show. It is, I was just checking, the 25th of June. It's definitely Tuesday, I know that. I wasn't quite sure what the date was. Chris, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, I'm excited to talk Liverpool news with you today.
I can't wait. I can't wait to get into this one. James Pearce gladly and kindly helped out this morning by dropping his latest column, so we've got a few bits from that, including a little about Liverpool do want a forward, but probably not Nico Williams. We're going to be speaking about Diaz, Fabio Carvalho, a little about Endo and the Olympics as well. If you're watching live on YouTube, of course, do let us know your comments, your stuff, and we'll bring them up throughout the course of the show. Such as JD, who says, "Afternoon, Reds. How are we? How are we, Chris?"
Oh, good, mate.
There you go, JD. Absolutely. I mean, that chat didn't work, but it's fine. He did definitely say it. He absolutely said it. I think my...
Let's just roll.
It's fine. It's all good. I'll read them out. Let's start then. Obviously, James did write his latest column before Chris. Interesting, he said, Liverpool do want a wide forward, but there's no interest in Athletic Bilbao's Nico Williams. So we'll start with the latter first, because there was a lot of reports knocking around over the last few days that Nico Williams isn't a target for Liverpool, given his release clause of around 50 million euros or so. I think it was worked out like 47 million pounds. Only a young player, of course. He's turned up for Spain, and maybe that's why he was in a lot of people's focus, because he's had a good tournament of the Euros so far. But Liverpool, according to James's sources, have decided he's not the man. If that is the case and they're not going for Nico Williams, but they are looking for a forward, what is it about him, do you think, that maybe has put them off? Maybe he doesn't fancy the move, I don't know.
Dead easy, his wage. His wage currently is £200,000 a week. We've spoken about it for about 3 or 4 weeks over on Deep Dives. Liverpool just don't, generally speaking, go and sign someone who's on that much money already, especially, all right, when there's a transfer fee involved. Like, maybe they'd go for somebody who's on a free and put them on a high wage, a la Thiago of a few years ago. But when this, 21-year-old, about to turn 22, is already on £200,000 a week plus a £50 million transfer fee, where'd you go? What's Virgil van Dijk on? He's probably on 250 basic. You'd expect Nico Williams's agent will be looking for 250 minimum. Someone like a Louis Diaz is on £55,000 a week, according to Capology and stuff like that. So he's obviously right at his prime. You buy Nico Williams, yeah, you sorted maybe for 10 years or whatever, but where'd you go contractually? You know, in 2 years' time, he's probably looking, maybe 3 years' time, looking for another contract. He might be the highest wage earner at Liverpool. And what's he really done to deserve that? You know what I mean? You want to be able to get someone in on a low wage, incentivise them. That's what Liverpool's way is. Listen, I'm different to what Liverpool think, but this is how Liverpool think. Yep. They want to get you on a low wage. They want to incentivise you so you get onto a really good wage. It's what's worked for us in the past. We know that Michael Edwards and the team at Liverpool put that in place, that template in place. So I think it's probably just around that at the moment. I think they're probably looking maybe at someone who is would classify as a homegrown as well to help out the squad in that regard. The Brian Mbeumo one doesn't set the world alight, the links to him, but it certainly feels a little bit more Liverpool at the moment than someone like a Nico Williams, because it's a big risk and you are mortgaging the future of your forward group on a young lad who hasn't played in England and is already on a massive wage. So I think it's as simple as that, to be honest, because he's got all the attributes to be a fantastic footballer for any club.
Absolutely. And I suppose as well, let's tie it in together, because James also spoke about Luis Diaz and he said he's part of Slot's plans, but Liverpool, it would take a bid of around £50 million to make Liverpool consider selling him, which I actually thought was quite low.
Yeah.
£50 million for him. But I suppose if they're in the market for a wide forward, but they're not necessarily selling Luis Diaz, adding a sixth person makes you think maybe it is someone who's perhaps more of a rotational option. I don't think Nico Williams is leaving Athletic Bilbao to be on, a sub somewhere else. He's playing every week and he's in the Spanish national team. I think it might be a backward step for him maybe to go and sit on someone's bench where if he goes to another club where he might play every week. I go back to your point before about maybe Brian and Mbeumo. We had a chat here from Ethsham who says maybe are all signs pointing towards Bakayoko then. And maybe that is it. Liverpool are looking for a sixth option, and therefore we might be looking at a slightly different type of profile of player than a Nico Williams, who, like I say, is going to want to move somewhere, get big money, be the main man, and probably start every week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Bakayoko links make perfect sense, don't they? I mean, for a start, he's 21 years old. He's on, relatively low wage at the moment at PSV Eindhoven. He is a left footer as well, which I think has a big part to play in this. Obviously, Nico Williams is a right footed player. Now, long term, I think you're looking at Gakpo. We've got Diaz currently, if you were to keep him. There on the left-hand side, you've got Jota who can play there, Nunes who can play there. You've only really got Salah and a returning from injured Ben Doak, maybe Harvey Elliott over on that right-hand side. So having someone like a Bakayoko who could come in, maybe learn for a year or two behind Mo Salah if he's still at the football club, and then maybe take over that starting berth, being that left-footed player, cutting inside, someone who's tricky, who can get on the ball, who can drive at players as well, keep the width for the Liverpool side, makes more sense in terms of profile for me than another left-sided player, because again, we've stocked the left-sided players. It's something that I think Liverpool have probably done to their detriment in recent years. Obviously, when we signed Luis Diaz, let's not forget that we had Sadio Mane as well. So it was another one. It worked out really well. We got Diaz in, we got him up to speed. Mane moved on in the summer, etc., etc. But right now, I think Liverpool have to address that right-hand side because Mo's had a big injury at the end of the season. He is getting on in years as well. We know that his numbers are still there and he's still producing at a world-class level, but you've got to start future planning.
Do you suppose, again, I might be reading way too much into this, Chris, but I've got a theory. Actually, to be fair, I've had a lot of people like in the comments and on various shows or on social media saying, like, you know, so many people are being ruled out by Liverpool straight away. I think what happens in this situation, bear with me, is that links happen. Like the journalist involved, like a James Pearce or a Paul Joyce or whoever, David Lynch, whoever goes to Liverpool, their sources and asks Liverpool, and more often than not, they get an answer back, and then that is reported. I think David Lynch wrote something a few weeks ago actually on This Is Anfield, which I thought was really interesting, is that there's been a lot of no's, but then there's also been links out there that haven't been no's, and maybe it's those ones that we should be, us as fans, maybe having a little look. Maybe, well, if he's being definitely ruled out and he's being ruled out, but they're keeping stum on him, maybe he's the one where there's a bit of work going on. That's why I do go back to Brian and Mbeumo. David mentioned that in his article at the time. That was widely publicised in a major outlet, so someone at Liverpool will have been asked about that, I'm sure. And the fact that nothing there has been ruled out maybe points towards some, or like a Bakayoko similar. They haven't been ruled out. Maybe those are the type of targets. I
think you're right. I think, you know, I remember reading David Lynch's article and thought it was really, really good. I thought it was a really nice, he took a step back, a sort of altruistic look at the transfer window and looked at all the links and sort of came up with the ones that playing the right hand side kind of haven't been poo-pooed, and the ones on the left hand side have certainly been poo-pooed for now. So it makes perfect sense to me. You've also got to remember, you know this better than anyone, Steve, that not every journalist goes with every single link. You know, you might go because it's reported in 2 or 3 things, but one thing might not be enough for them to go and peck somebody's head, because what they've got to do as a journalist is they've got to make sure that they've got that back and forth, so when something they think is about to happen, they've got that dialogue. You don't want to bombard them with every single link. It's something Neil Jones talked about with us over the course of his time coming in and doing Journo Insights and stuff, is you can't chase down every single lead. You've got to pick and choose. And right now, when it's things like L'Equipe, maybe you probably would, but if it's something like Marca, and that's the only link, and everybody's citing that, all the sites are citing that article, then that might be one where they don't go and check. So I do think there's certainly an element of truth in what David Lynch says and what you've just said there, but also let's not forget that they don't check every single link.
It's interesting as well, Chris, just to wrap up what James says. He says, like, you know, Liverpool are looking at a wide forward, and it's separate from the Luis Diaz sale. It's worth mentioning, like, Diaz might go, but he's also part of the plans, they won't go. It looks like maybe Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, Michael Edwards, whoever is making these decisions, probably a combination of all three actually, have probably decided Liverpool need 6 forwards next season, because there's an extended... First of all, it's a Champions League, not a Europa League, so you're not resting players in that.
Yeah, and there's 2 extra games.
There's extra game, but 2, maybe 4 if you end up in that mad extra round that you end up in, depending on where you finish in that table. Added to the fact that we all know Diogo Jota's injury record. He's injured now, funny enough, on Portugal duty. Mo Salah with his first proper injury, I'd say, like, you know, significant one that really impacted him, missed time, and coming back from it, he never quite looked the same. Do you think it's wise that Liverpool are going, you know, actually, even no matter what happens with Luis Diaz, we actually need a 6th one? We were comfortable with 5 plus a combination of Ben Doak and Harvey Elliott last season, but actually I think we need 6 now.
Yeah, I think that's right, isn't it? And I think, you know, a new manager coming into a football club wants to be able to put their stamp on that football club in the first window. What better way to put a stamp on a side than buying a forward player? It excites the fans, it gets them behind. You buoy the fans and stuff like that, and you really get to find someone who is going to be absolutely perfect for what you do. Because I think from what I've learned over the course of the last couple of months is that Slot likes his wide players, and maybe actually Mo Salah doesn't doesn't fit into a typical slot side, you will make a space for him. Slot will come in and go, I've got to work with Mo Salah. It's absolutely one of the best players in world football, and I can make changes to my system. But you've also got to think about, well, if it doesn't work, what type of a player have we got over there? Because he's not a dribbler in the same way that he was, Mo. Maybe you're looking for someone who can hug that touchline and create that space through the middle for your 10 to pop into or whatever, and Darwin Núñez or Diogo Jota to exploit. And how do you do that? Not have someone come inside and take up space. So it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for us. It's going to be a huge learning curve for Arne Slot. But the best way to do that is to give yourself options with players. So taking a sixth in for the injury stuff, Diogo Jota, Mo Salah, etc., etc. Darwin Núñez missed game time last season as well. Obviously, his form dropped off and stuff. Giving yourself those options with a sixth player looks like something that Slot wants to do right now.
What do you make on the Diaz stuff then to move on to that, Chris? Because according to James's report, he said Luis Diaz remains part of Arne Slot's plans. An offer of about £50 million maybe makes Liverpool reconsider that. My first feelings, I thought that was actually quite low.
Yep, same.
£50 million. If someone comes around with £50 million, I'll be honest, right? I think I'd probably take it, and I understand. I don't think I'm as enamoured as Luis Diaz. I think he splits the fan base, and I think I'm on one side than other people. And I understand both parts of it, but I think actually you're probably on the lower end, given where the world's at in terms of transfer fees now. 50 million actually feels low for a player. What is he, age 27? He's clearly done it in a couple of leagues now. He's a seasoned international player. I actually thought that 50 million isn't one. I thought Liverpool would want maybe 10 to 20 million pound more than that, even to reconsider. 50 feels low.
Yeah, absolutely. He's in the prime of life as well. Isn't he? To go back with a really old school Friends joke. Joe isn't up to that series yet. I don't think.
I didn't get it either, sorry.
No, it's an old one, mate. It's very, very old. Apologies to everybody. It was terribly done, and I apologise profusely. He is in the prime of his career. We know that. He's also, there's been a lot of rumours about him wanting to move on, of course, coming out of his camp and stuff like that. He's been at Liverpool a few years now. Maybe he fancies a bit of a change. Maybe he sees the way the wind's blowing and decided to get out before he's pushed out. Who knows? I personally think that he's an absolutely superb player. I get that Liverpool fans in general would argue with me that he doesn't do enough in terms of numbers, but I think his all-round game is that of one of the best three players at Liverpool Football Club over the course of last season. I think it's very easy to say and play Football Manager that you're going to get rid of him for 50 million quid and you're going to replace him, but if that replacement doesn't come in and play anywhere near as well, then you've done something wrong and you've spent more money. Yep. You might be looking at £100 million to replace the impact of Luis Diaz, and that's a big risk, certainly if you're going to be a net minus 50 million, if you're only taking 50 million for him. I think 70 was probably more where I was thinking for somebody at 27 years old with a couple of years left on his, 3 years left on his deal, certainly. That would come down, obviously, with less years on his contract and stuff. So, listen, I get that I'm in the minority here. I understand that. But I do feel like if you are trying to play with a true number 9 like a Darwin Núñez or Diogo Jota and trying to get them the bulk of the goals, then a Luis Diaz works really well in that regard. Doesn't get enough assists and goals at the moment, but with a new system, maybe it's something that he could sort of increase his workload in that regard. So yeah, I think it would be a strange one, but if he wants out, you've got to let him out, Sting.
Yeah, I think I'd be okay with it, but 50 feels low, if I was being honest with it. Let's move on then to another story, Chris. Let's move away from James's comment. Go and check it out, by the way, on the Athletic if you haven't. There's loads more in there that we haven't discussed here. Another column that was written, Lewis Steele for the Daily Mail wrote a column about some potential exits from Liverpool, and he talks about, again, loads of players. Do go and check it out over on the Daily Mail if you're interested. I want to highlight this little passage here from Lewis about Fabio Carvalho. Mentions, of course, like he says, being courted by many clubs in England and on the continent, with a growing list of suitors keen. Those clubs include his previous side, Fulham, along with Southampton, Leicester, and clubs in Germany, France, Spain, and Holland, most of which qualify for European competition. There is no interest advance yet, and Liverpool are keen to give Carvalho a look in pre-season before sanctioning any exit. The midfielder is not desperate to leave and wants to prove the new coaching staff that he deserves a place moving forward. So in that article, there's and we've all seen the links, Tyler Morton being linked away before really Arne Slot's had a good chance to look at him. It feels like he might be moving sooner rather than later. Find it interesting then that two parts here really, Chris. Liverpool are keen to get a really good look at Fabio Carvalho, and secondly, he's not keen to go. Yep. Because if he wanted to go, there's a list of clubs, and he's never been one to take a backward step, Fabio Carvalho, in sorting himself out, kind of. He pushed the exit from Fulham. He got out of Liverpool on loan because he realised he wanted game time. He's done it at an international level. The Portugal-England debate, who's going to pick me? Well, I'll go and play for the other one. He's done it time and time again. It feels like he's really keen to have a go at this one, and in an Arne Slot system again, if there is a 4-2-3-1, there could be a place for Fabio Carvalho as that number 10.
Yeah, absolutely. This is it, isn't it? I think the reason it probably didn't work out for Fabio Carvalho, he was caught between two stools, wasn't he? Yeah. He wasn't probably quite quick enough to play in one of the winger positions that we wanted, and he wasn't probably athletic enough and physical enough to play in one of the 8s. But in an Arne Slot system, which we're expecting to be a 4-2-3-1, playing in that number 10 position could unlock Fabio Carvalho's Liverpool career. And right now he's probably looking at it going, change of manager, change of management, change of coaching staff, of course, and it might be put me in a better position. And to be quite brutally honest, he wants to go and achieve something, and if he's going to go and achieve something, staying at Liverpool and getting a first team place gives him more options to realise those dreams than going to Leicester and a host of clubs that aren't competing for Premier League or La Liga titles but are competing in Europe's lower competitions. Why wouldn't you want to stay at Liverpool and prove yourself? Arne Slot looks like he's going to give him a chance, going to have a look at him. That's the prudent thing to do, because why not? You might have yourself a 50-60 million pound talent there who can play in that number 10 position when needed, and yet still has that versatility to maybe fill in and be your 3rd or 4th choice on the wings as well, because he's played everywhere, hasn't he? So I think it would be it makes perfect sense to me for him to stick around and stuff. But Steve, from your point of view, has he shown enough in his loan spells to be deserving of fighting for that first team place?
His Leipzig loan was a disaster. It didn't work out for him. But he scored 9 goals, got 2 assists in 20 appearances for Hull in the Championship. And listen, it's a Hull in the Championship. It's not Liverpool in the.
But he kind of changed their season.
Well, he certainly had a massive impact on them, and it is
when he started playing, they started to improve.
Yeah, and he missed out very, very narrowly on the playoffs in the end, and he was a major part of him, along with Tyler Morton, actually, of why Hull ended the season in quite decent form. I would say, and I go back to your point. If it was a 4-3-3 system. I don't know. I can't find a role for him because I don't think he's robust enough to be an 8, and I don't think he's a winger either. Him and Harvey Elliott are of a similar stature, almost like 2 little guys, effectively, from Fulham. But I feel Harvey Elliott's got a little bit more
bite.
Yeah, maybe just defensive awareness a little bit more to him when he plays as number 8. I don't think he's a right winger either. So. But I could definitely see, Fabio Carvalho playing behind a centre forward and being that link player. Then I'm all for it. And like I say, Liverpool have lost Matip and Liverpool have lost Thiago. So before they even sign anyone and exits and all that coming, there's space in the squad already for someone to make their mark. And whether it's a Carvalho or, again, it could be talent.
Well, he classifies homegrown as well.
Yeah, so he's got a lot going for him. So I think I can see a world, and I'm all for it. Like I say, if Arne Slot is going to play 4-2-3-1, I think it makes perfect sense. And also, what's the rush? When there's that many clubs after him, if you decide he's not for you, it's not like it's just Southampton. They're going, right, we need it now because if we don't get him, we're going to have to go and buy somewhere else. When there are, I'm just looking at Lewis, he's named Southampton, Leicester, Fulham, plus clubs in Germany, France, Spain and Holland. There's a long list of clubs there who would take Fabio Carvalho. So Liverpool aren't exactly desperate to get rid of him. Sometimes it's like, with all due respect, like with the Jordan Henderson thing, there was one team after him. Yeah. And Liverpool had to make a decision there and then, because if it doesn't happen, then that deal's off.
And the other thing is, this is about permanent transfers and stuff as well, isn't it? You've also got the option, if it doesn't quite work out, you can still loan them out. There'll still be those clubs, interested in loaning Fabio Carvalho for a season and seeing where it goes. They probably prefer it, to be honest with you, because they can get him into the system and see where he goes from there. So yeah, I think it just makes perfect sense for us to have a look at him because he's our player. I don't particularly think that Sepp Vandenberg will break into Liverpool squads. Certainly one of the top 4, but there's a chance, and it makes sense for Arne Slot to have a look at Sepp Vandenberg as well after his season in the Bundesliga.
Absolutely, so keep an eye on that one. I'm guessing Fabio Carvalho, there's a good chance at time recording that he might be on that tour of the USA, plus the friendly that Liverpool have also arranged against Sevilla at Anfield, so might get a little bit of Carvalho action in the pre-season before any decisions made on his future. Let's move on to the next story then, Chris. This one's about Wataru Endo. He was asked in let me quote the actual place. It was Abema Sports. I've got apologies if I've absolutely butchered that one. As kindly translated from the guys at this Anfield, done us a favour there. He was asked about the possibility of being called up to the Japanese Olympic squad. So the Olympics take place, the football part of it, in Paris this summer between July 24th and August 10th. Endo was asked if he's going to be called up and things like that. He's been called up to that competition in the past, and he said, I'm also kind of wondering what will happen. Nothing's been decided, but my stance is that if I'm selected, I would like to go. It's worth mentioning, Chris, Liverpool can block any player from going to the Olympics. It's not a recognised FIFA tournament, so you don't have to release your players. So, but also...
yeah, but you're a bad sis if you do.
They've done it before, I guess, and they might do it again. Let's start with the Endo thing. Interesting, actually, that he would like to go. In that, I remember last year, Ryan Gravenberch decided to stay at Liverpool, not go on Dutch 21 duty because...
Yeah, it really harmed him. Remember, he was never going to get in the Dutch squad. Yeah. He's in the Dutch squad, guys.
He's definitely in the Dutch squad, but he was like... And it's different, of course, because he was new to the club and he wanted to settle in the area and stuff. Wataru Endo's been here a year, but I'm surprised that an experienced player whose place, listen, is far from guaranteed in the starting 11. I understand representing your country is an amazing honour, but he's done that a lot anyway. He's played in 3 Olympics already, I think. Are you surprised that he would like to do this? Because I would think that's your chance in pre-season. Basically, you're missing the entire US tour for a start, and then you're not going to be back. In fact, it's every game on Liverpool's pre-season unless they sneak another one in earlier, maybe. I'm quite shocked that Endo wouldn't want to be part of that because he's another one who he's not guaranteed a place in Arnold Slots 11 next year.
No, it's a strange one for me. I think actually, just to correct, he's been in 2. He would become
sorry, he's become 3rd. So I do apologise. Yeah.
Japan's first person to feature in three Olympic Games for the country.
Cool.
I think you're right. I think it would be a bit of a strange one. Obviously, it's for the majority an under-23 tournament, and you get to add a few extra players in and stuff like that. He'd be one of those over 23 quota of 3 players, I think it is. But having done it a couple of times, maybe he wants to be that record holder. Maybe he wants an Olympic gold medal. There's not many opportunities to get that as a football player. Yeah. So it's something that obviously he wants to do. He's obviously in a leadership role for Japan as well. That could have a major impact on what he decides. We don't know whether he's going to be in the squad. It's not been announced yet, but we expect that he will be. But I think talking about Liverpool and talking about slots, it seems strange to me. In fact, and I speak the truth from how I see it at the moment, it feels like a guy who doesn't think he's going to be in Liverpool's first team right now. And I'm not sure that is what you want. I can balance that off with really wants to play for his country, wants to feature in an Olympic game, but there is a part of me that thinks has resigned himself to being a squad player and wants to get football here for his country. I'm not liking it. Yeah, I'm not liking it, mate.
The next point, and it goes on to, and this actually is well represented by David Lynch. This is David Lynch's article on this Anfield, by the way. Goes on to about Mo Salah and says Egypt are keen to include Mo Salah in their squad. And basically,
shock.
Yeah, I can imagine why. If they say yeah to Endo, are they going to say no to Mo Salah? You know what I mean? Like it's almost what if you're either blanket block players or you've got a blanket let people go. Now again, at this point we don't know if Mo Salah wants to go, but maybe he does. Of course, he's a proud Egyptian. He wouldn't mind representing his team on the international stage, and they might say it ends on August the 10th. I can be back for the start of the season anyway. I'll just do my training with them, which again would make sense from a physical point of view. Maybe not tactics and teamwork stuff, but that it will put Liverpool in a difficult position because they might be alright letting Endo go because he isn't seen as maybe a key player. I don't know. They certainly, I can't imagine that same thought about Mo Salah. They'll want Mo Salah there from day one or through pre-season. I'm guessing the commercial team would quite like to have Mo Salah on the tour of the USA as well. The interesting balance here with the two of them, because you can't really say yes to one and no to another.
No, that's it. Obviously, we've said no to Mo Salah in the past when it was delayed and it was in season, wasn't it, for the Olympics, pandemic Olympics. I think you're right. I think it sets a really bad precedent for how you deal with your footballers if you say yes to one and no to another. I think, I can't imagine that Liverpool would say no to either, but that's Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp that I'm thinking about and speaking about. Liverpool under Arne Slot might be a completely different beast. It might be, we pay your wages, you play for us. This is the most important pre-season of my tenure. It will always be the most pre-season, whether it's 2 or 3 or 4 pre-seasons down the line. This is the one where I am shaping our coaching for the season, where I'm giving you the ideas that we're going to take into the season, the differences between Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool and Arne Slot's Liverpool. You should want to be here if you want to affect change and take us from 3rd place to 1st place and take us from the Carabao Cup to the FA Cup and the European Cup. This is our foundational point where we put everything on the line for the next 12 months. If I'm Arne Slot, I want everybody there, no distractions whatsoever, Steve. I would expect if it was me, I'd be really, really feeling like if I'm Liverpool manager right now, my hands are tied behind my back because I want everybody there. Whether he'll be able to do it and stand up to them, is it a good footing for the next 5 years of him being Liverpool manager or whatever? Probably not. But in some ways, it's the best thing for the team.
Yeah, and like I say, I can completely understand why Endo would want to go and represent Japan. He's a proud Japanese player. Same with Mo Salah, they're proud Egyptian man. They want to go and represent their countries. Completely understand it from it. But you're right. With a lot of his team away anyway, on currently at Copa America and at the Euros, and then like I say, his first full pre-season, we don't know what stage all these players will come back. It depends, of course, how far their individual teams advance into the competition. You are right from a completely selfish point of view of my team, my tactics. I want to implement stuff. You would want to keep them, but it's a fine balance to say. Your first major decision that impacts Mo Salah and Wataru Endo is to piss them off.
Yeah,
that isn't always easy as well. There's a very
and it might have
balance.
the detrimental effect on the team moving forwards, mightn't it? If Mo Salah becomes annoyed and pissed off that he's basically stuck around to play a few friendlies when he could be representing his country at an Olympics, it's a really tough decision, but one that Arne Slot won't be taken lightly, I'm sure.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that one all pans out. Like I say, it is worth mentioning, you don't have to let your players go. It's not a FIFA tournament. I suppose it's the time of it as well, because it is like literally just before the season. You'd missed the whole pre-season tour pretty much over to America. You'd be back.
Coming from Chrissy Briz, he said, did you guys not read this quote where he stated he would want a new six because of his age and would welcome competition? Not fair on him not to bring that up. We spoke about it the other day, but you are right, we should have brought it up in the conversation with Endo and stuff. It is in his mindset though, isn't it, that he might not be he's not the future of Liverpool Football Club in the six because of his age and stuff, and that might be playing on his mind, and one of the reasons why I think he could be wanting to go over to Paris and take part in the Olympics.
Before it burped, I was about to say as well, the fact that he'd be back, he would miss every pre-season game, and that's the one. Like in times gone by, you wouldn't be missing. It wouldn't be that big a deal, but maybe I find that really, really tough. That one, Chris. That they get their first game under Arne Slot will be a competitive game away at Ipswich R12. That feels. I don't like it. I completely understand from their point of view, but I don't like it as a Liverpool supporter.
No, you can't like it as a Liverpool supporter, can you? It's horrible. You want to hit the ground running because we see that seasons can be shaped, not always, but they can be shaped by those first 10 games. I listened to your podcast that you did the reaction to the fixture list last week and stuff, and you're absolutely right to highlight seasons where Liverpool have had a good start. I think you highlighted the wrong season actually, but then you realised that if you get those first 10 games right, that momentum can plough you forwards and give you the belief to go on and achieve something special come the end of the season, and that's exactly what happened when we won the cup double. It was unfortunate that we ran out of legs and stuff, but yeah, Arne Slot wants Liverpool to start well. We need Liverpool to start well because we need them to have that belief in it to sort of grow throughout the first part of the season. Yeah,
so we'll keep an eye on that one. Thanks very much everyone for joining us on today's news update show. If you want even more amazing Redmen content a little bit later on today, you'll have Chris and Josh here on this very set with the deep dive, talking all about Trent Alexander-Arnold, the man who's been in the news for all kinds of different reasons, unfairly, I would say, over the last couple of days. So do go and check that out if you haven't already. If you're listening to this later on, it'll be live for you now. If not, come back at about 3 p.m-ish and it'll be live on YouTube for you. There, we'll be back with a
3:15.
3:15?
It's always 3:15.
Get there early, it's 3 o'clock-ish. Get in the chat early doors, have a little chat with everyone. Come back tomorrow for another Liverpool news update. See you all then.